First Contact Fallacy. The Archon-class diplomatic vessel Eternal Wisdom dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of the Sol system, its crystalline hull refracting starlight in ways that would have seemed magical to less advanced species. Admiral Zextol of the Galactic Concordat stood on the command deck, his iridescent scales shifting from deep purple to an amused azure as he regarded the primitive defense platform orbiting the third planet. Fascinating, he mused, his secondary brain clusters processing the sensor data. They've actually managed to construct a basic orbital defense grid. How quaint. His crew, composed of various species from across the galaxy's elder races, shared knowing looks. They'd seen this countless times before, young species taking their first stumbling steps into space, proudly displaying their crude attempts at defensive technology. The human construct was, by their standards, almost embarrassingly simple, a series of interconnected satellites with what appeared to be primitive kinetic weapons and rudimentary energy shields. The kind of technology that most species develop shortly after achieving spaceflight, usually about 3 centuries before they were ready for first contact. Send the standard greeting package, Zextol ordered, mandibles clicking in what his species considered a smile. Let's see how long it takes them to decode it. The Concordat had a standardized procedure for handling emerging civilizations, carefully crafted over millennia of experience. First contact was always a delicate matter, requiring patience with younger races' limited computational capabilities. The response came back in 3.2 seconds. Zextol's scales shifted to stark white, the color of confusion. That's impossible. Run a diagnostic on our chronometers. Chronometers functioning normally, Admiral, his science officer reported. They not only decoded our entire greeting package, but responded with a complete diplomatic portfolio, including detailed cultural exchange protocols and mathematical proofs of their computational capabilities. Before Zextol could process this anomaly, his tactical officer's crystalline appendages began vibrating in alarm. Admiral, the defense platform. It's not what we thought. The seemingly primitive structure was changing. What they had dismissed as crude solar panels were unfurling into configurations that defied conventional physics. The simple kinetic weapon ports were revealing themselves to be apertures for something far more sophisticated. Impossible, Zextol whispered. Those are quantum-locked metamaterial arrays, but the energy requirements alone would. Sir, the tactical officer's crystals were now humming at a frequency that indicated severe distress. I'm detecting temporal distortion fields. They're using them as computational substrates. Each weapon port is actually a localized space-time processor. The human construct was no longer merely a defense platform. It had transformed into something that, by all rights, shouldn't exist for another 1,000 years of technological development. Each segment was now clearly revealed as a node in a vast quantum computing network, using the fabric of space-time itself as both processor and weapon. We are receiving a transmission, the communications officer announced, her bioluminescent patterns pulsing with uncertainty. A human voice, speaking perfect high Galactic, emerged from the ship's consciousness field. Greetings, Admiral Zextol of the Galactic Concordat. We apologize for the deception, but we found it prudent to maintain certain appearances. Would you like to discuss the real reason for your visit to our system? Zextol's scales cycled through colors so rapidly that his crew had to adjust their optical processors. The humans hadn't just matched advanced galactic technology. They'd been playing a game of appearances that went against everything the Concordat knew about technological development. Open a direct channel, he ordered, his voice carrying the weight of someone who realized they had severely miscalculated, and inform the Concordat that we may need to revise our first contact protocols. The human defense platform continued its transformation, revealing layer after layer of technology that shouldn't exist. What had appeared as simple radiators were actually quantum entanglement arrays. The crude armor plating was in fact a shell of programmable matter that could adapt to any weapon signature in real time. A fascinating approach to first contact, the human voice continued, now tinged with what might have been amusement. Though perhaps we should discuss why the Concordat sent a warship disguised as a diplomatic vessel to an emerging civilization. Zextal's tertiary heart nearly stopped. They had known. Somehow, they had known from the beginning that the Eternal Wisdom was actually a Nexus-class destroyer wrapped in holographic camouflage. The humans hadn't just matched Concordat technology. They had seen through it completely. As the defense platform completed its transformation, Zextal realized that humanity had rewritten the rules of first contact. They hadn't just skipped steps in technological development. They had redefined what it meant to be an advanced civilization. Perhaps, Zextal said carefully, his scales settling into the deep green of diplomatic caution, we should start this conversation again. This time with complete honesty. An excellent suggestion, the human replied. And while we talk, you might want to consider why we chose to reveal only this single platform. After all, one doesn't usually place their most advanced technology right at their front door, unless it's meant to be seen. The implication sent shivers through Zextal's neural network. If this was what humanity displayed openly, what were they hiding? The defense platform had been a message, he realized. Not a demonstration of power, but a warning. Humanity was not what they appeared to be, and underestimating them would be a grave mistake. The game of appearances was over. Now the real diplomatic dance would begin, and for the first time in his long career, Zextal wasn't sure who was leading. The legacy of Silicon Valley. The Concordat's diplomatic chamber aboard the Eternal Wisdom was designed to impress lesser species with its quantum crystal architecture and psychic resonance fields. Yet today, it was the human delegation that commanded attention. Dr. Sarah Chen, Earth's chief diplomatic officer, sat calmly at the crystalline table, her simple black uniform bearing only a small silver pin shaped like an infinity symbol. You've hidden your true capabilities well, Admiral Zextal admitted, his scales now showing patterns of deep respect mixed with concern. But what I don't understand is how. Our monitoring stations have been watching Earth for centuries. We saw your first nuclear tests, your crude rocket launches, your primitive satellite networks. Sarah smiled, the expression somehow both warm and calculating. Tell me, Admiral, when did your people discover quantum computing? Like all advanced races, we developed it naturally after mastering nuclear fusion, approximately 3,000 years into our technological advancement. We did it with silicon. Sarah's words fell like stones in a still pond. While you were watching our space program, measuring our energy outputs, and cataloging our visible technological progress, we took a different path. We didn't need massive energy signatures or exotic materials. We built our future in basements and garages, with semiconductors and clever code. The Admiral's scientific advisor, a being of pure energy contained within a crystalline matrix, pulsed with disbelief. Impossible. Quantum coherence requires. Required. Sarah corrected gently. Past tense. That was the assumption that kept us hidden for so long. While the galaxy watched for dark matter reactors and zero-point energy fields, we perfected room-temperature quantum computing using modified carbon nanotubes and artificial diamond substrates. The energy requirements were minimal, the heat signature nearly non-existent. She reached into her pocket and placed a small black cube on the table. It was perhaps 5 centimeters on each side, unremarkable except for a slight iridescence that seemed to shift when viewed directly. This, she said, contains more computing power than your entire ship. We call it a personal quantum device. Most children get their first one around age 10. The silence in the chamber was absolute. The implications were staggering. If humans had mastered miniaturized quantum computing to this degree, what else had they accomplished while the galaxy wasn't looking? The defense platform, Zextal realized, his scales shifting to the deep blue of sudden understanding. It wasn't showing off your most advanced technology at all, was it? It was showing you could match our visible capabilities while hinting at what else you might have. Sarah nodded. We call it the Silicon Revolution. While other species focused on harnessing ever greater energy sources, we focused on efficiency and miniaturization. Our first true AI wasn't born in a massive computer complex. It emerged from a network of gaming consoles. We didn't need to bend space-time to achieve quantum computing. We found a way to use existing materials more cleverly. But the temporal distortion fields we detected are real, Sarah confirmed, but they're not for computation. They're for communication. Once you master quantum computing at our level, manipulating space-time becomes almost trivial. We use temporal fields the way you use radio waves. The Admiral's tertiary brain cluster was working overtime, reassessing centuries of assumptions about technological development. Your entire civilization, it's been a carefully crafted illusion. Not an illusion, Sarah corrected. A different path. We showed exactly who we were. A species obsessed with miniaturization, efficiency, and finding clever solutions to complex problems. We just didn't show all the places that path led us. She gestured, and the black cube projected a hologram of Earth's solar system. But this wasn't the view the Concordat was familiar with. Layer after layer of hidden infrastructure appeared. Quantum communication networks threading through subspace, microscopic sensor arrays scattered throughout the asteroid belt, and things the Admiral's translator couldn't even properly name. We didn't build big, Sarah explained, because we didn't need to. While you were looking for massive engineering projects, we were building at the nanoscale. Our entire defense fleet could fit in a small asteroid, each ship no larger than an ancient Earth automobile, but carrying the firepower of a traditional dreadnought. The implications: the energy being pulsed rapidly, its crystalline matrix vibrating with excitement. If this technology were shared. That's why we're revealing it now, Sarah said. We've watched the Concordat long enough to know you're honorable, despite this little deception with the warship. We believe it's time for humanity to take its place in galactic society, not as an emerging civilization to be guided, but as equals who took a different path to the same destination. Zextal's scales had settled into a pattern that denoted deep thought. The Concordat's entire classification system for civilizations is based on energy utilization and visible megastructures. Your existence proves that paradigm fundamentally flawed. Change can be difficult, Sarah acknowledged, but necessary. We're offering the Concordat not just our technology, but a completely new way of thinking about technological development. The question is, are you ready to learn from those you thought would be learning from you? The Admiral looked at the small black cube, still sitting innocuously on the table. It represented everything the Concordat thought they knew about technological progress, turned upside down by human ingenuity. The Council will need to be informed, he said finally. This changes everything. Sarah's smile returned, with a hint of mischief. Oh, Admiral, this isn't even our most impressive achievement. Would you like to know what we did with biological computing? The energy beam's crystal matrix actually cracked slightly in shock, and Zextal's scales cycled through colors so quickly they appeared to strobe. The humans hadn't just caught up to galactic civilization. They had quietly surpassed it, all while appearing to be technological infants. The Silicon Revolution, it seemed, was just the beginning of humanity's surprises. Project Lazarus. Commander James Chen, Sarah's brother and head of Project Lazarus, stood in the observation deck of humanity's true command center, hidden within the dwarf planet Ceres. The vast chamber was surprisingly minimal. No massive view screens or imposing control stations, just a simple neural interface chair and walls of programmable matter that could form any display or control surface needed. You've shown them the quantum computing, he said to his sister's hologram. Are you sure we should reveal Lazarus now? Sarah's projection nodded. The Concordat's already detecting anomalies. Better they learn from us than stumble upon it themselves. James settled into the neural interface chair, his consciousness expanding to merge with the vast network that was humanity's greatest secret. Admiral Zextal, are you prepared for what I'm about to show you? The Admiral's image appeared alongside Sarah's, his scales now a deep shade of curiosity. After what we've learned about your quantum computing achievements, I doubt anything could surprise us further. That's where you're wrong, James smiled. What you've seen, the defense platforms, the quantum computers, even our nanoscale ships, those are just tools. Project Lazarus is something else entirely. It's why we named our first colonies after ancient gods of death and rebirth. With a thought, James activated the facility's true displays. The walls of the chamber became transparent, revealing the actual interior of Ceres. The dwarf planet wasn't solid. It was hollow, its entire interior transformed into a vast computer matrix. But unlike traditional computers, this one was alive. 70 years ago, James explained, we discovered something remarkable. Consciousness itself is a quantum phenomenon. While the galaxy focused on artificial intelligence through brute force computing, we found a way to grow it. Project Lazarus isn't a weapons platform or a defense system. It's a synthetic consciousness spanning our entire solar system. The displays showed strands of quantum-entangled particles threading through every piece of human technology. Every satellite, every ship, even the neural implants that most humans now carried. All of it connected to the living processor that was Ceres. When life first evolved on Earth, James continued, it started as simple cells that gradually joined together to form more complex organisms. We replicated that process with quantum consciousness. Each human neural implant, each quantum computer, each piece of our technology is like a cell in a vast, distributed mind. Zextal's image showed signs of distress. You're saying your entire civilization is alive. In a way you never considered possible, Sarah confirmed. Our technology doesn't just serve us, it's part of us. We evolved together with it. Those nanoscale ships I mentioned, they're not just small, they're extensions of human consciousness, as much a part of their pilots as their own limbs. James gestured, and a section of space near Jupiter shimmered. What had appeared to be empty void revealed itself as millions of microscopic ships, each one carrying the consciousness of a human pilot merged with the Lazarus network. This is how we achieve faster-than-light travel, James explained, not by brute forcing our way through spacetime, but by expanding human consciousness to the quantum level where space and time are more suggestions than laws. Each ship isn't just piloted, it's lived. The Admiral's image flickered as his sensors tried to process what they were seeing. The human fleet wasn't just hidden. It existed in a state of quantum superposition, simultaneously everywhere and nowhere until observed. The defense platform that greeted you, Sarah added, wasn't just showing off our visible technology. It was testing whether you could perceive quantum consciousness. Your reaction told us you couldn't, which is why we're having this conversation now. How? Zextal's translator struggled to convey his mix of awe and fear. How many ships do you have? That's the wrong question, James smiled. We don't have ships in the way you understand them. Every particle of matter in our solar system is potentially part of our distributed consciousness. Given enough time, we could turn any asteroid, any molecule of space dust, into an extension of Project Lazarus. The implications hit the Admiral like a physical force. Humanity hadn't just developed advanced technology. They transcended the traditional boundaries between biology, technology, and consciousness itself. Every human was potentially connected to a solar system-spanning mind that could reshape matter at will. Why reveal this now? Zextal asked, his scales showing patterns never before recorded in Concordat history. Because the galaxy is changing, Sarah answered. We've detected quantum consciousness emerging naturally in other species. The Concordat needs to be prepared. What happened here wasn't just human ingenuity. It's the next step in galactic evolution. James nodded. We're not showing you this to threaten or impress. We're showing you because soon you'll need to understand it. The age of traditional computing is ending. The age of quantum consciousness is beginning. And the Concordat can help guide this transition. Sarah finished. But only if you're willing to accept that everything you thought you knew about technological advancement, about consciousness itself, needs to be reconsidered. The Admiral's image was silent for a long moment. When he spoke, his translator rendered his voice with an emotion humans would recognize as humility. It seems, he said, that we have much to learn from each other. James and Sarah exchanged glances. This was just the beginning. Project Lazarus had awakened, and with it, the galaxy's understanding of life, consciousness, and technology would never be the same. The Council's reckoning. The Grand Chamber of the Galactic Council was in chaos. The massive amphitheater, designed to host representatives from thousands of civilizations, buzzed with a cacophony of voices, telepathic signals, and quantum communications. At the center of this storm stood Admiral Zextal, his scales now a steady silver of absolute certainty as he presented the evidence that would shake the foundations of galactic society. Honored council members, his voice cut through the din. What we have discovered on Earth demands not just our attention, but a complete revaluation of how we measure civilization itself. The High Counselor, a being of pure energy far older than most stellar systems, manifested closer to the presentation area. You speak of impossibilities. Admiral, no species can advance from primitive computing to quantum consciousness without passing through the established technological phases. A quiet voice responded, "That's precisely the assumption we need to challenge." Dr. Sarah Chen stepped forward, her simple black uniform a stark contrast to the ornate regalia of the council members. Your measuring stick for civilization has always been linear. Energy utilization, megastructures, faster than light travel. But evolution, both biological and technological, isn't always linear. The chamber's walls transformed into a vast display, showing the traditional galactic model of technological advancement. A straight line from primitive tools to space travel, to energy mastery, to transcendence. This model, Sarah continued, assumes that bigger is better, that more energy equals more advancement, but life itself didn't evolve that way. The most complex computer in nature isn't a star-spanning machine. It's the human brain, barely larger than your fist. The display shifted, showing the true path humanity had taken. Not a straight line, but a complex web of interconnected advancements, each breakthrough leading to dozens of unexpected developments. While you watched for massive energy signatures and planetary engineering, we turned inward. We didn't need to harvest the energy of stars because we found ways to use the quantum nature of reality itself. We didn't need to build bigger ships because we learned to exist in the spaces between spaces. A member of the Council's Science Directory, a crystalline being of vast intelligence, vibrated in disagreement. But our measurements, our theories of technological progression, were based on your own path. James Chen interjected, his hologram appearing beside his sister. You assumed that because you achieved consciousness through massive computational arrays, that was the only way. But consciousness isn't a product of computation. Computation is a product of consciousness. To demonstrate, James raised his hand. The air around him shimmered, and suddenly he was physically present in the chamber, having transmitted his actual consciousness through the quantum network. The council erupted in astonishment. "This is what we've been trying to tell you," Sarah explained. The traditional markers of advancement, energy use, physical construction, even faster than light travel, they're all secondary effects. The real measure of civilization is its understanding and manipulation of consciousness itself. The High Counselor's energy form pulsed with intense patterns. If what you say is true, then every methodology we use to evaluate emerging civilizations is fundamentally flawed, Zextal finished. We've been so focused on watching for massive engineering projects that we missed something far more significant: the quiet evolution of consciousness and computing at the quantum level. To demonstrate, Sarah interfaced with the chamber systems. The display changed to show thousands of worlds throughout the galaxy, each pulsing with tiny points of light. These are civilizations you've classified as primitive, pre-spaceflight, or early technical, but look at them through the lens of quantum consciousness. The display shifted, and suddenly those same worlds blazed with complex networks of quantum activity. Patterns that the Council had dismissed as background radiation were revealed as nascent quantum neural networks, emerging naturally as life evolved towards consciousness. "You're not just asking us to rethink our classification system," the science director realized. "You're telling us we've been blind to an entirely different form of galactic evolution." "Precisely," James nodded. "Project Lazarus wasn't just a human achievement. It was the discovery of something that's happening naturally throughout the galaxy. Consciousness is evolving, not through massive machines or energy arrays, but through the intricate dance of quantum mechanics at the smallest scales." The Council chamber fell silent as the implications sank in. Every assessment they'd ever made of developing civilizations would need to be reviewed. Every theory about technological progression would need to be rewritten. "There's more," Sarah added softly. "The quantum consciousness networks we're detecting, they're beginning to interact with each other. Humanity didn't just discover a new path to advancement. We stumbled upon evidence that the galaxy itself might be waking up." The High Counselor's form stabilized into a pattern indicating deep contemplation. "You're suggesting that consciousness, not technology, is the true measure of civilization." "We're suggesting that they're the same thing," James corrected. "Technology isn't tools or machines. It's the extension of consciousness itself. Humanity didn't build better computers. We expanded what it means to be conscious." Admiral Zextel stepped forward again. "Honored Council, I move that we immediately establish a new division, one focused on detecting and understanding quantum consciousness evolution. We can no longer afford to measure civilization by the size of its constructions or the power of its engines." The chamber erupted in discussion again, but this time the tone was different. The shock and denial had been replaced by excitement and possibility. The Council's reckoning had begun, and with it, a new understanding of life, technology, and consciousness itself. In the midst of the chaos, Sarah and James exchanged knowing looks. This was just the beginning. The real revolution wouldn't come from humanity's revelations, but from the Council's acceptance that consciousness itself was evolving throughout the galaxy in ways they had never imagined. The measuring sticks of civilization were being rewritten, and the galaxy would never be the same. A new dawn. 1 year after humanity's revelations to the Galactic Council, the Sol system hosted an unprecedented gathering. Representatives from over 10,000 civilizations, many previously classified as pre-spaceflight, converged within the quantum consciousness network that now openly spanned Earth's solar system. The event wasn't taking place in any physical location. It existed in the shared quantum consciousness that humanity had helped the galaxy recognize. Beings that had never left their home planets participated through their own emerging quantum networks, their consciousness joining in a vast symphony of thought and experience. Sarah Chen, now serving as Earth's representative to the new Quantum Evolution Council, observed the gathering from multiple perspectives simultaneously. Through Project Lazarus, she could experience every aspect of this historic moment, from the individual consciousness of participants to the grand patterns of thought flowing through the galaxy. "It's remarkable how quickly they adapted," James commented, his consciousness intertwined with the network. "Once we showed them what to look for, every civilization started finding their own path to quantum consciousness." The gathering's purpose was to establish new protocols for galactic civilization, not based on technological achievements or energy utilization, but on the sophistication of consciousness itself. The old Concordat was transforming into something entirely new. "Look at the Zenthuri," Sarah noted, directing their shared awareness to a civilization that, until recently, had been dismissed as primitive. The insectoid species had never developed advanced computing or space travel, but their hive-mind consciousness had naturally evolved quantum properties that rivaled Project Lazarus. They didn't need computers. A familiar consciousness joined them. Admiral Zextal, his being now freely shifting between physical and quantum states. Their entire species was already a quantum computer. We just didn't have the framework to recognize it. The gathering rippled with new arrivals as more civilizations joined, each bringing unique perspectives on consciousness and existence. Some had evolved through technology like humans, others through biological paths like the Xanthari, and some through means that defied traditional classification entirely. The real question, a crystalline thought pattern that belonged to the former science director interjected, is where this convergence leads. The patterns we're detecting suggest something larger at work. Sarah directed the gathering's attention to a visualization she had prepared. It showed the galaxy not as a collection of stars and planets, but as a vast network of interconnected consciousness. Some nodes blazed brightly, the advanced quantum networks of species like humanity. Others were just beginning to glimmer. Emerging consciousness taking its first steps into the quantum realm. But more importantly, it showed the connections forming between these nodes, creating patterns that transcended individual species or civilizations. We're not just witnessing the evolution of individual consciousness, Sarah explained to the gathered minds. We're seeing the emergence of a galactic consciousness. Each of our species represents a potential node in a network that could span the entire galaxy. The revelation sent waves of understanding and excitement through the quantum network. Species that had once competed for resources or territory now saw themselves as potential parts of something far greater. But that raises an important question, James added. If this is happening in our galaxy, what about others? Are we part of an even larger pattern? As if in response to his question, a new signal rippled through the quantum network, faint but unmistakable. A pattern of consciousness from the Andromeda galaxy, reaching out across the void. The gathering fell into stunned silence as the implications became clear. They weren't just witnessing the evolution of galactic consciousness. They were participating in something that spanned the entire universe. This, Admiral Zextel's consciousness pulsed with wonder, is why the old measures of civilization were so inadequate. We were so focused on the physical realm that we missed the true frontier, the evolution of consciousness itself. Sarah brought the gathering's attention back to the immediate future. We need to establish new protocols, not for controlling or directing this evolution, but for nurturing it. Every species, every planet, every particle of consciousness in the galaxy has a role to play. The next several hours were spent in deep communion as the gathered civilizations worked to create a new framework for galactic society. The old hierarchies based on technological achievement were dissolved, replaced by a more organic structure that recognized the unique contributions of each species to the emerging galactic consciousness. As the gathering drew to a close, Sarah shared one final insight. A year ago, humanity revealed Project Lazarus to show that we were more advanced than we appeared. But we've learned something far more important since then. Every civilization, every conscious being, is part of something greater. The real project isn't about advancing technology or expanding consciousness. It's about understanding our place in the universal dance of awareness. The quantum network hummed with agreement as the gathered civilizations began to disconnect, each returning to their own worlds with new understanding and purpose. The age of measuring civilization by its machines was over. The age of universal consciousness had begun. In Earth orbit, the defense platform that had started it all continued its vigilant watch. But now it wasn't just a demonstration of human ingenuity. It was a testament to the infinite possibilities that arise when consciousness evolves beyond its original boundaries. The galaxy had awakened, and the dawn of a new era had begun. Not with the thunder of warships or the construction of megastructures, but with the quiet revelation that consciousness itself was the greatest technology of all. In the quantum spaces between thoughts, Sarah Chen smiled. Humanity had helped the galaxy recognize its own potential, and in doing so, had found its true place in the cosmic order. The journey wasn't over. It was just beginning.